Hey, what's up guys? It's Brian here, Brian's Lawn Maintenance. All right, we got a special video today. Look who we're hanging out with.
What's up, dude?
It's Keith Kalfas, man. This is awesome. Hey, one of the most requested topics I get, Keith, is landscaping and pruning. These guys want to see more about that. You guys know I'm a mow and go guy, right? I don't do a lot of pruning, a lot of planting, a lot of landscaping, but this guy has a really successful business. So what are we doing today?
We're gonna do a property walk of a landscape install. It's an R&R, a rip out and redo, and break it all down. If you haven't done bigger landscaping jobs before, and let's learn from some of my painful lessons.
This is gonna be good. All right, if you guys are excited about this, shoot the video thumbs up. We're gonna be jumping into it right here, right now. So without further ado, let's check it out. All right, guys, so Keith, if you want to take it away, bro, Keith Kalfas here. This is a large job, bro. This is actually intimidating to me. Like, this is a way bigger price point than anything I've ever looked at, I've ever done. But this is like in your wheelhouse. So what do we got?
Yeah, so I mean, you start out small and then you work your way up. You kind of feel the sting. We got planes who actually by the Air Force Base.
This is real life, bro.
Yeah.
You can't start a video without a train horn or an airplane. That's how it works on my channel. I talk about it all the time. But so this whole thing is a job you're doing. We'll check out the front as well, but
yeah, R&R, it's a complete rip out and reinstall, and this is actually an upsell. So this customer called us a few months back and we came in to do property maintenance because I'm talking the trees and shrubs were so overgrown around the whole foundation, the garden beds of the house, that you literally, they were up to the gutters.
Wow. So
we came in and we trimmed everything down, and we had a chipper out here and we cleaned up the property and then, you know, breath of fresh air. And I told the customer, I said, listen, I would recommend ripping out and removing and reinstalling some of this landscaping. And the customer kind of just wanted to do a couple sections, and I said, you know, if you have some overgrown stuff on one side but you just replace a few things on this side, then you're gonna have this huge juxtaposition and it's not gonna be right. So
you did a whole overhaul, basically.
Yeah, it's best to do the whole front, or the front and the side, or just the whole thing. Don't just do a little bit here and there. But we're gonna walk around, we're gonna break this down, and I'll show you a way to simplify it. So this one is, we're at 13,100 so far. And there's upsells in here as well. So you always prepare, if you're doing a landscape job like this, a multi-day job for change orders. Once a customer gets going and they start seeing the progress and they're happy, they're always usually going to want to add on. So you anticipate that, and then you send them the change order and you keep adjusting it as you go. So like I said here, the trees were completely overgrown, the shrubs are overgrown. We removed all this out, and that's where we're gonna talk about phases. Okay. Now, you don't need a fancy landscape design program unless you're really getting into hardscape and, you know, I'd say 20,000 plus, which you can, but you don't have to. You can literally do it all on a piece of paper. You can draw it out, you can take pictures, you can just make checklists. You can point to the neighbor's landscaping if you look around. Yep. When you're walking with your client, say, how about that? Do you like that? What about that? Yep. You know, beautiful subdivision. You can send the customer pictures of your previous work. You can go on Google. But if you start out smaller, 4, 5, 6 grand, then work your way up. I'm still working my way up. But you learn very quickly. There was this point where I said, oh, this big job, it's not even that big of a job, but it's really just a bunch of small jobs grouped together into one big job. So let's put that into quadrants. If you put it on a framework, days, or phases. So, but even before that is when you do the initial consultation with the client, find out what they want, and the more clear of an understanding you can get of what they want, and they feel understood, then that allows you to just have creative authority to make it happen. Cool. So, and you didn't get started with $13,000 job. You were saying earlier, you started with $1,500 job, then $4 grand job, then a $9 grand job. Some of those, but the first year in business, I did a $20,000 job.
Wow.
And even though I knew how to do it all, because I was up all night panicking, reading books, researching on Google, watching YouTube videos, what to do, calling up friends, make sure you have friends in the business that you can call up and ask them what to do and what not to do.
That's huge.
But you know, I barely made any profit off the first job. It was just enough money to buy an engagement ring for my wife.
Oh.
Coming home to a 1-bedroom apartment with an eviction notice. I'm still mad about that job. So, this right here was all ripped out. It was grown up to the gutters.
Sure.
We're reinstalling burning bush and pampas grass and ivory halo dogwood shrubs. And I'm trying to give you as much as I can to compress here, so stick with me. But when you do landscaping, less is more. Proper plant spacing is right. Explain that to the customer. Whatever you plant is going to fill in. If the customer has irrigation, that's very important with what you install, to make sure that you give them watering instructions. If they don't have irrigation, you still give them watering instructions, but make sure you plant stuff that doesn't require a lot of water. Here, we get 33 inches of water annually, right? It rains quite a bit in this area. But
what about like digging, like missed dig? I know you were talking about that before we hit record. Like you guys,
water lines, gas lines, sprinkler lines. Depending on how deep you're digging. I mean, you could just be digging out an edge for a garden bed, metal edging, and you can hit an internet line. It happens, but you should always call before you dig. We call missed dig, and they stake out the property to make sure that you're not going to hit any gas lines or anything like that. That would be a huge problem. But back to what I was saying about phases and days, having checklists is very important, and you learn how to do this by going out and doing it, undercharging, having anxiety attacks, staying up all night, because the unforeseen things that are just part of the process, if you expect everything to go perfect, that's where you go wrong. But when you've been through all these processes so many times, you know that things take longer than you would expect in a perfect world, right?
Sure. How do you go about it? Like, is one day like a tear out day?
Yeah.
One day is like a I don't know, like a planting day. One day is like a mulch day. How do you tackle your jobs?
Yeah. So a 6-day job would be day one is the rip out. Okay. We remove all the shrubs. We start from the top down. So we trim all the trees or remove everything. Okay. And then day two, we go down to the garden beds. We start ripping the plants out of the garden beds, removing the old mulch, digging down and resetting the grade. Okay. Day three is coming in and installing all of the black metal edging right here. Yeah, I like this. Is that aluminum edging? Yeah. So there's four different types of edging. Well, there's actually 5. One is you could do brick edging, you could do stamped concrete edging, you can do a natural edge, you can do black diamond plastic edging, aluminum edging, or metal black aluminum edging. Yeah. Which we offer all those options to the customers. This is the easiest stuff for guys like me to trim against, for the mow guys. Yes. So I love it. That or the brick, you know. No stone. Don't do the stone, the boulders. Oh. Because the grass feathers in between the cracks. Anyway. Yeah, the field stone. Yeah, yeah. We're actually doing field stone borders around all these trees. Oh, really? Just for you. Well, I don't cut this property. So one day is a tear out. One day, how you try to do is one day is a tear out. One day is a pruning day. One day is a final like tidy up. So day one is rip everything out. Day two is, depending on how much manpower you have, you can rip everything out and grade everything and get everything down to level the first day. Sure. Day two, you can come in and put all the edging in and literally install all the plants. Okay. Day three, you can put down all the weed barrier fabric and install all the pins and install all the decorative stone. Okay. However much manpower you have to gauge out how long it's going to take you. Okay. Doing a makeover on a customer's property and they come out and they get excited. Usually they start asking questions and they want to have more done. So you anticipate change orders and plan that into your schedule. If you only got 5 days to do something and you think you're just gonna squeeze that in, well, maybe you should. I always do buffer days for rain and then an entire extra day on top of any big project or any project over $7,500 for that matter. I book out an extra day just for cleanup. Okay. So I tell the customer, day one, we remove everything. Day two, we grade all the garden beds. Day 3, we put all the edging in. Day 4, we put all the weed barrier fabric and pins. Day 5, we install all the brand new decorative stone. Day 6 is final touch-ups and cleanup.
Wow.
So,
in this 13 grand job, you can do what in 6, 7, 8 working days, business days?
We could do it all in
a week,
5 days.
Wow.
Now, if you have a job over 10 grand, I suggest this is the most important tip. Book one whole day just for getting all the materials on the job site. Because you might not think about, when you're quoting a job, how long it takes and charging.
Okay.
You might not think about how long it takes and charging for the time to go out and source and retrieve all of these materials from different landscape suppliers, from different nurseries.
I've heard you say that on Instagram, like, you know, just driving around to all these different places can take 4 or 5 hours.
Just going to the dump sometimes takes, literally, I've spent 2.5 hours just driving to the dump, waiting in line, dumping, and then coming back.
So these are all like hidden costs of a landscape job.
They appear to be hidden in the beginning, but once you get going, they just become
But that's why
relative.
I don't want to see guys like losing their butt when they're going to the nursery or the dump or the landscape supply place to go get mulch. Like, oh, you know, 3, 4, 5 hours of drive time, 3, 4 hours of this, that adds up, and you got to factor that pricing into the job. Is what you're trying to say.
Another important thing is the 50% gross profit margin, or you can't do the job rule. So that's what I like doing, checklists. So I'll tell the customer, okay, we have like this is a $1,500 plant materials budget.
Okay.
Right. I know that this black metal edging is $36 per piece.
Okay.
I go to this local landscape supply I don't normally go to, it's $39 per piece. That's already eating into my profits, right? Because I already told the customer how much it's going to cost. Decorative stone. There's 16 different types of decorative stone that we offer the clients by sending them pictures. I have videos that I've created of showing them out to the clients. They pick the one they want. If they can't decide, we bring them some samples.
Okay.
And then they approve it. Today, we just want to get everything removed and cleaned up and get all of the bulk off the property.
Sure. These
That's
checkpoints.
all. So day 1, if you hit that by 3 o'clock, well, you have a couple more hours. Be aware, if you get into something else and you start something else, you're opening up a whole nother can of worms. Sure, you can get a jump on it, but if you're trying to do multiple parts of the project at once, and you're ADD jumping around, trying to install stuff while one guy's ripping stuff out, another guy's cleaning the gutters.
Oh yeah.
That's insanity. It's best to have, unless you've got your flow down to the point where a couple guys can break off and start the next thing, where this is being cleaned and they're coming right behind installing. It takes a while to get to that point. I'm not at that point yet, but
you keep your whole crew on one site and start to finish. You don't send guys off
on one phase.
What? Okay.
And one job.
Okay.
Get everything done, and then once that's 100% done, then we start the next thing, installing all the edging.
Okay.
Right. Then the next thing is plants. Go to the nursery and get a whole load of plants. Make sure you have a plant materials list. Double check it. Oops.
Run around.
Check it at the nursery when you're loading it up. Double check, because yesterday we had to go back to the nursery because I drove off and forgot 5 yew shrubs and a rose of Sharon.
Yep, and that costs time and money.
Yep, I had to go back, and luckily it's right down the street, but it took an extra 40 minutes off the day.
Wow.
Because I didn't look at my checklist, because the guy at the nursery was like, yep, that's all it. And would you just trusted it and you just took off. So enough of those things happen on one job. That'll cost you a whole day, which literally just costs you another $1,000 in profit out of your pocket. So the goal for today is to get all the plants planted.
Yep.
We've got Michigan peat. It's basically composted leaves. It's very nutritious. We plant, we dig out bigger than the hole, deeper than the hole. Then we amend the soil with the existing soil mixed with peat moss. We make sure we plant it. Depending on the plant, these are going to be 2 inches above grade and mounded, because once that's all done and everything's graded, tomorrow we're coming and installing all the weed barrier fabric and pins. Weed barrier fabric is an entire video in and of itself, but make sure you always get 30% more weed barrier fabric than you think you need, because when you're cutting it all and cutting it with razors, there's going to be a bunch of waste. And make sure you charge for that. And then we put an average of 1 pin per every square foot. So you think, I need a couple hundred pins. You know, these are the sod staple pins that cost up to 25 cents a piece. We buy a whole box of 1,000 of them for $80 because I anticipate on putting 500 square feet of guard bed space, 500 pins.
Wow.
So you can go back to the you could be running back to the landscape supply, spending another
45 minutes.
45 minutes and another $60 on pins. Like, oh shoot.
Wow.
So little things like that eat you up along the way.
This is huge, bro. I mean, this is already, I mean, it might sound rudimentary to you. You're like, I hope I'm giving the good stuff. This is huge for me. This is already good stuff. So you schedule in phases. You take time to know your numbers, like really break things down. And then another quick little tip was always give yourself more time, more margin, right? It's going to take longer than you think and probably more money than you think. So just charge appropriately. And then pricing. What's your rule of thumb? Like 2.5 or what?
Yeah, that was it. It's the 50% gross profit margin rule.
Okay.
So after you have everything and you've sourced all the materials and pricings, like you know, you can call around the landscape, but you're gonna have to sit down for a couple hours and crunch the math base. And you want to get the quote over as soon as possible. 12 hours. If it's a job that's you know, 10, 20 grand, it might take you a week to get the quote over, depending on what you're doing.
Sure.
But you do all the math of what's going to cost you, your time, materials, I'm sorry, your materials, your labor, everything.
Overhead, yep.
Your dumping fees, the fuel, and once you get all the costs associated, the cost of goods sold, then you want to times that by 2. So you're like, oh my God, it's going to cost me
6 grand, 7 grand.
6 grand to do this job. I have to charge $12,000, so there's a 50% gross profit margin, or I cannot take on this job.
Is that what you try to aim for?
Always, 100%. Never.
Wow.
So this one is it's a 60% gross profit margin.
Dang.
And I already know I'm going to eat up that other 10% to land on 50.
Yep.
And then after taxes and the personal payroll and all that stuff, I probably make
30%.
The profit margin is 25.1%.
Okay.
So here's what you do. You create these laws for yourself, and this has helped me tremendously.
Yeah.
Where you say, okay, I'm gonna take on this job. This is what it's gonna cost. This is what you put yourself in front of all this stuff, and you put yourself in front. It's like kind of like the profit first method almost for landscapers, and say, this is what I want to make off this job, so I'm happy and I'm not rushed around in anxiety, and I can actually take the time
to do a good job, bro.
Yeah, to do a good job, to make sure every T is crossed and every I is dotted. Every I is dotted and every T is crossed. Tell the customer that too, but here's another phrase. I've done this 1,000 times.
Yep.
I'm the guy for the job. I'm very passionate. We deliver.
Yeah. You do immaculate work, bro. Like, it's funny.
This ain't even done, but yeah.
Well, hey, one thing I wanted to, this is something I thought that I was thinking when we were recording back up front, was you're like, dude, it's 13,000 or what? This is 13,000.
I'm trying, yeah.
13,000 bucks. Well, okay, so one thing that I know I struggled with a lot was knowing my worth, knowing my value. But here's the thing I'm trying to say is, I don't know if I was a homeowner, if I would spend $13,000. Like what I'm trying to say is, like, don't be intimidated to quote 10, 12, 13, $20,000 jobs. Don't like put the value of a dollar bill on the job for what you would pay. It's what the customer would pay. And so, like, to you, you're like, dude, this job's only 5, 6, 7 grand cost. And sometimes we have this complex about selling it for 13 grand, 15 grand. We get nervous if the customer's gonna bite. We get nervous if we're overcharging. We think 13 grand, like, we grew up pretty economically on the bottom of that totem pole, right? But somebody that lives in a nicer subdivision or has a beautiful house, 15, 18, 20 grand might be like, oh, okay, yeah, go ahead. Like how do you guys do this? Deposits, thirds? You know, or
always get the deposit. You can call it a good faith materials deposit.
Yeah.
It depending on what your materials and pricing is. Here's the way I do it. Very important. say 30% down or 33% down or even 50% down.
Okay.
I tell the customer, we require any jobs over $1,000 require a 30% deposit on the morning of the job site.
Okay.
So once we show up on time, we start working, and depending how you word it with the customer, say you see us working, you get that warm fuzzy feeling like, wow, these guys are legit.
Yep.
You feel good. Then come out and write us a check. I'll get a signature from you. I'll add it to your invoice and I'll send it over to your email.
Okay.
And then I deposit that immediately.
So you do a third to hold the spot, a third the day of, and then a third when you're finished?
No, no, no.
Okay.
So if we're really busy and booked out,
yep,
like we're booked out 9 weeks, it's $100 deposit.
Oh, okay.
Just to book a spot on the calendar to make sure the customer's serious, because they'll try to use you,
yep,
so they can go find someone else, and I don't play that.
Yep.
But
that's honest, yeah.
So
I know, like Caleb Altman, he does like fourths, like draws, like when you book, when the materials are delivered, a certain checkpoint, and then a finish. One thing that so
that would make sense if you're doing big jobs,
$50,000 jobs.
Yeah, 40, 50 grand.
Yeah.
Beautiful. So to wrap all this up, if you tell yourself, this is easy, man, I got this, then you got it, right? And all a bigger job is really just several smaller jobs grouped together into one bigger job.
I like
That's
that.
all it really is, and you can do it. It's simple.
Okay,
But
cool
there's
deal.
a lot more to talk about. We'll do that in another video.
Honestly, bro, I feel like this is the most honest landscape walk around I've ever seen, because sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, sometimes you learn, we always say. But again, I always admire the landscaping work, and we need to do more videos like this. Help you guys out. So if you want to see some more, leave us some comments down below. So we'll leave a card here or over here, I don't even know how that works, with that other job that you did 2 years ago, that walk around.
Yep.
That was pricing, how to plant, how to install. Really, really helpful content. So you good?
Yep, and hit me up on Keith Kalfas on YouTube. I got a ton of videos about landscaping and all the head trash that you go through, because I go through it myself.
This guy's a gem. And also on Instagram.
Oh yeah, Instagram.
At Keith Kalfas. So, all right guys, well that's it. Over now. Appreciate you big time. We'll see you guys in the next one.
Thank you.